Hello viewers, welcome once again to another edition of our women's program, Karimpe. Like always, we bring for you different aspects of women's life, and so today we are back to discuss about how life coaching can actually aid the mental and the emotional well-being of women in particular. Well, to talk about so much about this, we are here in the studios of Doordarshan, and our guest today is Shikha Sinchury. Shikha has a MSc degree in zoology. She is also has got a B.Ed degree, and besides that she is a master in counseling, a master's degree in counseling, and on top of it all she is a life coach, a certified life coach as well. Well, she has been helping countless of young generation, the children, the youth, the adults, teachers, etc., teams, etc., and building up, trying to build up their self-esteem as well as their emotional well-being. Today in this program, we will not just be talking about emotional well-being of children and the youth, but we will be talking about emotional well-being, how relevant and how important it is to look into that aspect, especially in the context of women. So you be there on the other side and enjoy this women's program today, because there's going to be a lot of learning, I guess, through this program. So I warmly welcome you, Shikha, to this program, our women's program, Karimpe. Thank you so much for taking your time out, Shikha, and giving us this opportunity to really understand the need of emotional well-being, especially for women of today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Moshmi, for having me in the program. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for the generous introduction.
No, you deserve so much more, because, you know, you've been helping so many people, you know, be it the youth, the children, even the women. Mm-hmm. On the outset, like right in, as my first question, I would like to, I mean, this needs to be made clear. What is the difference between a therapist and a life coach?
Thank you for the question. All of these services, be it therapy, coaching, counseling, all of this come together to aid a person and their well-being, but they are different in the approach and the modalities. To talk about the difference, let me say it this way. Counseling or therapy is a little bit archaeological in approach, which means we dig the past a little bit. It deals with dealing of past hurts and trauma and things like that, whereas life coaching is much more a forward movement, and it's much more architectural in nature, where we help clients to move forward, build from wherever they are at, and then achieve their goals. So life coaching is a conversational process, unlike just like all the other processes, but here the movement is not so much, the focus is not so much on the past, but it is much more towards the future, taking the now and the future.
Because while before coming to this program, I was reading up, and there's so much that a life coach is actually doing, right, which we were not aware of. So another question that comes to my mind before we really go into the aspect how women especially is in need of this in today's times. Who do you think requires a life coach? Which kind of people should approach a life coach, say, for instance?
That's a good question. People who are willing to grow and people who already are at a place where they have considerably dealt with their past and are now moving forward and wanting to achieve their goals. So people who are set to explore their own potentials, move ahead, those are the people who can approach for life coaching.
Because, you know, Shikha, you were a science student, you know, that also in zoology, and then you did a B.Ed. I think you wanted to teach maybe at some point of time, but then you went into this. What took you to this arena really to go into life coaching?
Yeah, that ties into my own personal journey. I have also worked for about a decade in a non-profit organization that primarily helps youngsters with character formation and spiritual formation. What I realized during the pandemic years, when the world was a little different for all of us, I was trying to find my own footing into who I am and what I want to do with life. It was during that time I discovered life coaching. And when I was asked for the first time, what do you want to do? It was an eye-opener for me, because I realized much of the times the decisions I was making was really made by my grades. You know, I have been a bright student, so my grades decided for me to even take up zoology. The expectations from the family, the expectations I had on my own self. But in the coaching space, I found myself much more ready to explore and to understand what is it that I really want to do with my life, where do I find my joy, my happiness, and what is my passion really. And truly, when I was coached and counseled, I did realize that my passion is about helping other people.
Exactly.
So that is why I delved more into this and took the required training.
And you must be doing it so wonderfully, because you know you also have a wellness clinic, right? You have a clinic of your own also?
It's not a clinic for now. It's an online platform.
Okay.
I call it Chautari Life Coaching.
Okay.
The word Chautari, it's a Nepali word, which means a resting place. So basically it is a space where people can rest emotionally, rest in their priorities and their mind, and then build forward from there after processing.
Now coming to this aspect, because we want to delve into it, because you know emotional well-being, whenever we speak of the word called emotional well-being, it is a little restricted, you know. We don't speak about it, especially in the context of women. She's such a giver. She is there doing all the chores. If she's a housewife at home, if she's a working woman outside, she does the same for both the places.
Right.
Yet she continues to give, and nobody's really looking what she is also wishing. Like what you said, you followed your desire, but how important it is that a woman's emotional well-being is also looked into, and that she can decide on that as well in her own terms.
Right, and you're spot on with the point that you made just now, that this area is not so much paid attention to. Mental health, we have spoken a lot about it, and emotional well-being becomes important for women, because I think there is so much of an expectation from a woman. It's almost like a benevolent sexism kind of a thing, you know. You are expected to be a certain way, to be the nurturer, the provider, and now even the breadwinner. So most of the women I work with, they are exhausted. We are tired, you know, having to juggle work and personal life and keep up the social appearances and everything.
Expectations is so much
yes,
higher. And each of her roles, she's expected to do it very, very well.
Yes, yes. So I think we need to look more into emotional well-being. And you're right about the stigma, the whole how we are seen as when somebody is emotional. They're saying, oh, she's such a crybaby, or it's not as important. You are overthinking. You're overthinking, you know, or it's just going to pass. Everybody has done it the same way. So I think there's a lot of minimizing of emotions and emotional needs. So spaces like this where we can have conversations kind of opens up a new avenue to talk about all of that.
And it's important because, you know, and life coaching definitely can support a women's well-being, right?
It does.
How does that help?
Yeah, and it is a very non-clinical space, right? So we're not there as life coaches to diagnose or offer therapy or write medication or anything like that. So it becomes a safe conversational space where we just unpack the emotions. So we are learning to name them, we're learning to understand them, we're learning to express them, and that helps in regulation, self-regulation, so that when we are triggered by certain emotions, or when we're dealing with certain emotions, we're not in that outburst, you know, especially when women, we do that, oh, she's nagging. So we're not in a reaction mode, but we are responding because we're taking time to think through it, and the behavior comes out of a much informed
Okay.
process.
So if I may also quickly ask you, supposing a woman is to come, she is distressed and she comes to you, what is it that she can expect from you? What is the process that she has to go through? I mean, how ready she has to be and what kind of process she has to go through actually?
The major tool in life coaching is our questions. So the questions help the clients, the women, to self-reflect, to think through their own issues. The way I do it is using their own story. So it helps people to, in that safe, non-judgmental space, as they tell their stories, I latch onto certain points through significant listening and ask them to explore more, to pay attention to the bodily sensations as they are speaking, what they are feeling when they are saying those, when they are sharing their stories. So they can expect a space where they are not judged. They can expect clarity as they speak, because a coach works as a soundboard for the client. So as people hear themselves speak, I think there's much more clarity in that aspect also. And because it is action oriented, so after every session, the client gets to take away something and come up with an actionable step. So even if it means just reflecting on the emotion that she's carrying, jotting it down, sharing it with somebody, or expressing it in more creative art form, or taking it further into deeper exploration. So it kind of sets somebody in that tone to understand their own emotional landscape better.
And to deal with it.
And to deal with it, absolutely.
Coming now to another question, women's problems, situations are very similar the world over.
Yes.
We might be emancipated a little less here, and in the Western countries a little emancipated more, but situations and what she has to go through, are quite similar, if not the same. Yet, in the Indian context, when we come, we also have something much more, because we have a very strong family bond, right? The family can play and does play a very important role. And so also is the community, because we often say a community's role is also important. So when it comes to emotional well-being of a woman in the Indian context, without really taking her in that Western model, without putting her in that model, how important and what kind of role do you think a family can play, as well as the larger community can play, in her well-being?
Thank you for pointing out that binary, because oftentimes it happens, clients come with that expectation where they think like they'll get step 1, step 2, step 3 to work through the emotions, but it is not like that. What works in the Western world or other parts of the world may not work in India, or even in different cultures within India. So, of course, we are very collectivistic as a society and relational in nature. So, the role of family, the role of community becomes very important. Like you mentioned before, the weight that women carry, juggling different roles within and outside the family. I think now we really need to pause and think the role of other family members and the support that they can bring on the table for also the women to have a bit of care and support. Because most of the time, I think it is much more structural than just this woman sitting across somebody else in a sofa and talking about their problems. It is not just, the onus sometimes falls on the woman when we invite them for any of these services like this, but the problem is much more bigger than just what she's going through herself. It is structural in nature, because of course, the role of men, the role of elders, other family members, children, how do they understand a mother's role in the family? How do they see their mother resting in the family? Or is she always in motion, trying to fix this, trying to grab this, trying to solve a problem? So I think education is so much necessary, even within the home structure, outside of the home structure, in the society level, because I think this is not a battle that a woman has to fight alone, where she's in front of a coach or a therapist. It's almost like, this is my problem, help me out. But it is not it could be inner struggles, and that's true, but there are also external pressures. So to deal with that, the education is very important outside of her own self, from the family and everyone around.
Yeah, it's because we are more increasingly becoming a nuclear family mode, right?
Yes.
Of course, but then saying this, we still have a number of families who are actually living together as a joint family. So this program, I'm sure, is being watched by family members too. So in case they have to understand what and how can they play a role in understanding the emotional and what kind of little add-ons they can make to her well-being, what would you say to them?
One of the things is to approach the women in the family with compassion, to also understand the weight that she is carrying, because I don't want to use the word unpaid labor, but it is so much of unrecognized work that she does in keeping up the well-being of the family, in getting the logistics done. So if we were to hire somebody to do the same work, we would have to dish out money for that.
Absolutely.
So I think when the work goes largely unrecognized and it is taken for granted, that becomes a pinching point for the women. So the least they can do, other members of the family can do, is to acknowledge and to see the work that is done at home and outside by women is real. What she brings on the table is of value, and to be able to also partner. So that would mean working through the schedules. If there are certain things they can do to lighten the load, even if it means just keeping the vegetables chopped and ready so that she can come and cook. Small things where those spaces are created, an uninterrupted 45 minutes where she just can breathe and take care of plants, and her children are not around looking for mother at that point of time, or she's not doom scrolling trying to do away with the exhaustion, but having a meaningful time where she relaxes in the way that is rejuvenating and
to her.
Yeah.
So what I understand is sensitivity and empathy by other family members, by the children, by little grown children, by her partner, and by other extended members of the family are equally important for the well-being of the woman, right?
Yes.
And now, as we said a little while back, now how do we normalize emotional struggle that a woman often has to go through, but yet it is kept under wraps because, as I said, there's so much of stigma and other terrible words that are attached to her not being good, because she's at the end of the day another human being. So how can we normalize this as well?
We would have to have more conversations around emotion and emotional well-being, because we approach it something like, oh, I'm sad and I need to fix this. Emotions are seen as something to fix and quickly, but then it needs a deeper work. And I'd like to even say that emotions are data. It's telling us, it's giving us information about what's happening on the inside. For example, being upset, being frustrated, being outraged, or being angry, they're all not the same thing. These are different things which brings different responses in the physiology also, and also in our behavior. So to educate ourselves about what emotional well-being is important, and also to normalize this vocabulary, of how we are feeling, of talking with one another, making it normal. When somebody comes and says, oh, I'm irritated, I'm fatigued, not looking at her as a problem to be fixed, but giving space and room, and being able to just ask a question. What brought you to this? What made you feel this way? And I think that opens up a doorway for a furthermore conversation ahead. Yeah.
So from fixing responsibility to shared responsibility, right? I mean, you don't fix the symptoms, which we often do, but it's a shared experience, especially in a family life. Quickly, as we wrap up, for all the women who are watching this program, how important it is for them also to pause, to use the pause button once in a while.
Absolutely important, because we are constantly on the go. The pressures around us demand us to be active all the time. And pause does not mean absence of activity, but it is a place where we can rejuvenate, when we are rested well, we can work well better. So the pause button becomes very important. Reset button. And now what we do when we are pausing, that is another field to explore, because sometimes, you know, when women are pausing, it's also seen as being lazy or not contributing to at home and all of that. But the pause is resetting, and where we find meaning also within the pause, not constantly being on the productivity
to take up her own hobby, maybe something that she really wants to do. She has never done it because of the pressure from the family and the home front. Just to do what she just pleases to do, right? Without really having to please others. That could be one of the pause button, you feel?
That could be one of the pause button. Anything that helps her to recalibrate. Let me put it that way.
Absolutely. You know, this conversation that we had is it was and it's been of a different level altogether, because this is something that I think was very least spoken of, the emotional well-being of a woman. And I'm glad that we could bring it out, and I'm sure that so many of our women who are watching this program, I hope it has helped. And in case there are any such they have kind of situation, they can easily go and approach a life coach and get themselves healed, be heard, and that be better at on the whole, right? So thank you for showing us the path that you have opened, that we could open up this aspect of emotional well-being, especially for women, and that you shared such meaningful insights. And I'm sure that it has helped understand this emotion that many women sometimes go through, but then they keep it suppressed. Thank you for coming to the studios and enlightening us today about this issue. Shika, it's been a pleasure, it's been an honor to have you.
Thank you.
And we wish you all the very best as you continue to help women, children, and so many more individuals out there in the society. Good luck to all of your ventures in life.
Thank you so much.
Well then, that's a Shika Sinchury for us in this program of Karimpe, and I'm sure that today you've been able to understand the need to just be you, especially the women out there, and that there's something called emotional well-being that also needs to be looked into, and that every member of the family can play a role into improving it and bettering her life as well. Thank you so much for joining this conversation, and once again, until next time, and the entire team of Doordarshan, we wish you goodbye.